It's not up to him, neither the parliament, to decide the territorial shape of Ukraine. Under the constitution, there should be a whole Ukrainian referendum. And we cannot hold it. And I believe that it will be the will of people not to concede any territory to Russia. We understand that none of those concessions that are on the table would stop Putin thinking about Ukraine as his territory and willing to advance further to the west.
Trump has said that Ukraine must accept the redrawing of its borders in order to achieve peace with Russia. He's going to meet Vladimir Putin in Alaska, that's Alaska in America, not in Russia, on Friday to discuss how to end this conflict. Ben, there's lots of great analysis of this on thetimes.com and in the paper this morning. What's caught your eye?
Yes, Mark Bennett, who is in Kyiv for The Times, has written a fantastic analysis on what it all means and how actually Putin going to Alaska is ultimately a risk-free venture for him. That's because Zelensky is not going to be there, and it's a prime opportunity for him to bend Trump's ear and put across his point of view. And in it, what struck me and reminded me back to this was that last year Putin did an interview with Tucker Carlson, and it was the first time he'd done a interview with Western media since the full-scale invasion back in 2022. During this, Putin was banging on and on and on about how actually it's Ukraine is being returned, to Russia, it's not an invasion, so on. He was going down this huge tangent, and at one point Tucker Carlson said to him, "I'm so sorry, I'm lost. What part of history are we in?" And Putin said very quickly, "Well, this is the 13th century," and then went straight back into another tirade about it. And that is the type of thing, that's for Putin is exactly the type of thing that he'll be, one would assume, trying to do to Donald Trump, which is to completely baffle him with the history of it all. And we know how quickly the wind can change, and if there's any idea that it is Zelensky that is stopping a ceasefire agreement, we know exactly where Trump's rage will be directed next.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like arguing that a King of Scotland should be on the English throne, which, you know what, I am prone to do. Look, at a press conference yesterday, the US president expressed frustration with Zelensky for his reluctance to give up land.
The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the president there disapproving of the Ukrainian constitution, it seems. Look, I'm joined now by Alexander Khara, who's a former advisor to the Foreign and Defence Ministries of Ukraine. Alexander, good morning.
Good morning, Khara.
Thank you very much for being with us. What did you make of those comments that we just heard from Trump about Zelensky's insistence on following the Ukrainian constitution?
Well, I believe that Trump operates within the alternative facts and misunderstanding of the legal framework in Ukraine and possibly in the United States, given that we can witness what's going on the streets of Washington, D.C., with deployment of National Guards and other things. So I believe Mr. Putin for Mr. Trump is a role model. He may do whatever he wants, regardless of the constitution, international law, whatsoever. And certainly we in Ukraine are worried because we feel the same moment that the Czech people felt in 1938 when there was a partition of the Czechoslovakia and then actually inevitable war with the Nazi Germany. So I'm glad that today European leaders, except of Mr. Orban, who is a friend of Mr. Trump and Putin, they issued a statement where they backed Ukrainian position, and actually they're saying that they should be just and lasting peace, and just a really important word. It's about bringing those who committed crimes and those who started this war aggression to justice. And actually, impunity is one of the reasons why Putin started this war. He made many wars to happen in Syria, actually, where he lost, in Chechnya in 1999, and many others. Yeah. And it's important that our European partners understand that there is a connection between Ukrainian security in future and that of the continent.
Absolutely. Look, we've heard from President Zelensky this morning, and he's posted on social media saying, "We can see that the Russian army is not preparing to end the war. On the contrary, they are making movements that indicate preparations for new offensive operations." What can you tell us about that? I mean, is Ukraine really braced for an increased offensive rather than an end to the war?
Well, just about Russia. In 1996, there was a first Chechen war, and the Russians lost it badly, and they signed the so-called Khasavyurt Accords. And then in 1999, actually, Putin, he was paving the way to the presidency, and he started the second war. It actually was a genocidal character. So Russia is not a country that obeys its bilateral agreements or international law. So that's why we fear that with the United States reducing the supply of weapons and assistance to Ukraine and seizing sanctions from Russia would allow Putin to have this pause to reconstitute and to attack again.
Sure.
And now, just recently, in a couple of days, there were some advancements of the Russian forces in the east, and certainly Putin would project that as the image of Russia that is not possible to stop, and that's why it's better for our partners to pressure Ukraine to concede our territory and our sovereignty.
Look, finally, Alexander, I mean, all this talk of how there could be some answer to be found in land swaps, that Ukraine, Donald Trump saying Ukraine might need to rethink what it considers to be its borders, some suggestion that Russia could be allowed to, if not take new bits of Ukraine, then certainly keep hold of the bits of Ukraine it has occupied. What are your thoughts on all of that? How likely is that? How likely is President Zelensky to be able to go along with that, to wish to go along with that?
Well, I don't believe that Zelensky would commit a suicide, political suicide, and possibly actually the real one, because majority of Ukrainians are against any territorial concession in return for peace. And now we don't have peace in offer. The Russians are talking about ceasefire, and they would demand not just territorial concession, but concession towards our sovereignty, which is not acceptable to us. And Zelensky is absolutely right. It's not up to him, neither the parliament, to decide the territorial shape of Ukraine. Under constitution, there should be a whole Ukrainian referendum, and we cannot hold it. And I believe that it will be the will of people not to concede any territory to Russia. We understand that none of those concessions that are on the table would stop Putin thinking about Ukraine as his territory and willing to advance further to the west. I mean, not to the western of Ukraine, but to the European Union and NATO, because this war is not just about territory of Ukraine or sovereignty. It's about the regaining the hegemony or influence of Russia over Central and Eastern Europe and further to the West.
Understood. Alexander Khara, thank you very much indeed.